Hey everyone, I wanted to come on and do an update. I took my last dose of Provera yesterday, so now I am just waiting for that dreaded witch to show up so that I can call my clinic and start the cycle for IUI number 1. So I'm really excited, but I went through so much hell ordering vials. So I don't know if I mentioned this before, but we found out that we could order vials from our same donor that we used for Malachi. Okay? So we were excited about that. He had 5 vials left. 5. That's it. So it needs to work like now. But there was a notice on there saying that we had to speak to a genetic counselor. So we spoke to the genetic counselor at the cryobank, and come to find out he's a carrier for colorblindness. So is Mark. Either way, there was a possibility of a colorblind child. So we signed the forms, and we had to have our doctor sign the form saying that he acknowledged that he would be basically injecting sperm that is a carrier for a known genetic trait. And so the doctor signed it just fine. Okay? So I called to order. We had the money in the account. And they said, we don't have the genetic forms. I said, seriously? Because I sent them off a week earlier. Like, I sent them off on Friday. I called the cryobank as soon as we got Mark's semen analysis results back, because we knew what we were going to be doing, and asked about the vials and knew about the genetic thing. And so the next day we sent everything off, and the doctor sent it off too. So I was like, no, that's been sent off. So they put me on hold. They talked to the genetics, and they're like, well, we have the one from the doctor, but not the one from you. And so I got an email address to send it to, and had Mark take a picture of the form because he still had it in his vehicle, and we sent it. Okay? So I call again. I get a different representative. They transfer me over to genetics. And they're all like, well, we have yours, but we don't have the provider one. I said, no, I just spoke to someone and they said they had the provider one. They didn't have ours. And they are like, well, let me check with my coworker. And they're like, oh, yeah, the provider one's here. It's like, why wasn't this on my file or something, you know? So I was frustrated by that point. And then they hung up on me. And so the next time I called, I said, look, I've spoken to genetics. They have both of our forms. I want this done. And the guy was like, well, it's not in the system yet, so I can transfer to genetics, but until it's in the system, you can't order. And so I was like, okay, I've talked to like 5 different people by this point, said, what's your extension number? Because from now on, I'm dealing with you exclusively. And he gave me his extension number, and hung up with him, waited. Finally got an email saying that my account had been updated and that both things were on file. So I called back, and they're like, well, there's a problem. Genetics will call you. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I waited for the call from genetics. They're like, the problem is that your doctor that signed your physician authorization note is different than the provider that signed the genetic thing. And I was like, are you kidding me? And come to find out, the nurse practitioner that works under my reproductive endocrinologist is the one that signed the provider note on the genetic thing. And I was like, it's at the same clinic. She works under him. And they're like, oh, well, let me see something. And they're like, okay, since it's the same clinic and it's the same providers, then it'll be fine. And I was like, oh my gosh. So So then I called the extension back and finally ordered. And this whole process took hours. Like, it took hours. And I was so frustrated by the end of it. And so we paid $5.50 per vial with Malachi. $5.50 per vial was still a lot. That was before we knew about the genetic mutation. And this has been, 5 years ago now? The vials that we just bought were $7.95 each, even with the genetic mutation. So their prices have gone up tremendously. And if Mark had talked to them, he probably would have been able to get some sort of a discount, but it was me talking to him, so. But yeah, so that was just a whole rigmarole, and it was just so frustrating. And at that point, I was like, this better work, because we're paying so much money. We've gone through so much already. Like, it better work. So, yeah, I'm just waiting for Aunt Flo to show, and my vials are on their way to the clinic, and I let them know and gave them the donor number. And that's not something I'm going to share publicly, just because that's a very personal thing. So I'm not going to share our donor number or anything like that. Oh. Am I the only one that, like, makes Amazon wish lists for things that they're looking forward to? So, like, I already have a wish list for if we have a baby girl, or a wish list for if we have a baby boy, or a wish list for if we don't want to find out the gender. It just keeps my mind busy during these waits. And I also like watching, like, baby shower hauls on YouTube, and just getting ideas of things that I'm gonna want. And there's things that I didn't use with Malachi, or I wouldn't use again, and things that I'd want to try. So I don't know, I just think it's kind of interesting. I don't know if you can see, but over there, those 3 shelves of books are all Malachi's. So I have a feeling that we'll be set on books unless baby's a girl, because then we'll need some, maybe, I know I'm gonna get flack for this, but maybe some princess books, because I'm all things girly. So yeah, I don't know. So that's just what's going on. As far as symptoms from the Provera, I just had some hot flashes, and I was even more tired than usual. Nothing really more severe than that. I didn't really have mood swings or anything. It was just taking another pill. I'm not looking forward to my flow starting, because I recall Provera periods being really horrid. So yeah, that is what is going on. I'll update you all when my cycle starts. I get to skip the first ultrasound just because I just had an ultrasound. They said that they wouldn't make me go through it again, because everything else looked really good and healthy. So they said that the Provera should have shrunk my cysts, and that they're just gonna assume that it did. So in a way, that makes me happy, because I don't have to pay for another ultrasound, because ultrasounds aren't cheap, and my insurance doesn't cover anything for fertility. But at the same time, I almost wish they would check, because I don't want there to still be 2 golf ball size cysts on my ovaries, and then we're adding Femara in, because I'm going to be taking a high dose of Femara for about 2 weeks, because it takes longer for my ovaries to stimulate. In the past, it has anyway. I don't know, it might be different. It's been a long time. but I'm taking 7.5 milligrams of Femara starting for the 5 to 7 days, and then having an ultrasound, and then possibly going on for 14 days, because that's what I did with Malachi. That's what I did in 2016 when we did IUI. But in 2016 we used Mark's sperm, and obviously it didn't work, and then my mom had open heart surgery, so we didn't try again after that. Well, we were trying, but not going through treatment. So that's my rambly update. So I'll update you all again, like I said, when Aunt Flo shows. So yeah, leave a comment, like, subscribe, hold it, and I'll see you all later. Bye.